Hey everybody. So I made a trading card game, and this video is going to show you guys how to play it. So first, what you're going to need at least 2 decks of 40 cards. These decks don't have 40 cards in them, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. You're going to need 40 cards, and you're going to need at least 20 what I call soul coins. Basically, they can be like any kind of like poker chip or quarter, coin, token, whatever. Oh shit. Let's see, here's what a typical Hokus poker card looks like. There's a couple different elements on it, and I'll run you through each of them. So it's like soul coins are your resource for playing cards in this game. And up here, this is called the bet. This number is the bet. And you need to place, you'll need to place 6 soul coins into the pot to play this guy, and I'll explain that later. This is the name, of course. This card is the Oil Baron. He's a robot that drills oil, obviously inspired by Gurren Lagann. This word right here, greedy, the cards are split up into 7 categories based on sin. So, it's like there's greedy, gluttonous, slothful, envious, lustful, prideful, and I hope I didn't forget any. This name right here, this word automaton, this is the card's ilk. This is basically like what kind of type of card it is. Like, this is an automaton, so he's just a robot. He's a machine. This is the card's effect, and the effect is just how the card interacts with other cards. Like, it changes the flow of the game, and it's like, you guys know what an effect is, like if you've ever played any kind of card game. And this number right here is the card's force. It's basically, like the attack power. It's how strong that card is. And this right down here is the flavor text. This part is just for fun. It doesn't mean anything. It just adds to the lore of the cards, basically. Okay, but anyway, so now I'll show you what what the field state looks like. In this game, it's not called the field. It's called the board. And I don't have any playmats right now. But that's whatever. It's because I'm lazy. But basically, you're gonna have like 6 different spaces you need. So you need 1, 2, 3. Oops, hit the camera. 1, 2, 3 raise zones, and I'll explain what raises are in a bit. But you need 3 of those zones so that you can have 3 cards there. The discard pile in this game, it's called the muck. It's gonna go right up here. You need 1 summon space, like enough space to put in 1 summon, and again I'll explain what that is. And then over here you'll have a familiar zone where you place familiar spirits, and I'll explain what that is, of course, later. Just letting you guys know. Let's see. You can play this game with 2 to 4 players. You could maybe do 5 or 6, but it'd probably get really crazy. Yeah, it's basically just like a strategy kind of gambling type of game. So what happens? So how you start? It's like you decide who goes first, and then everybody draws 5 cards. You need to draw 5 cards. We'll just draw 2. Because this is a scripted encounter and it doesn't matter. So, but yeah, in a normal game you'd draw by 5 cards. And the player who goes first, what they do is they look at their hand and they decide which card they want to play as their summon. Because, and like when you're playing a summon, you probably want to pick whichever card has the highest force. Because that's how you win. You need to be able to beat over your opponent's cards, so you just need to have a higher force than they do at the end of what I call a round. It's like really like you take turns like within a round, and a round ends when somebody takes the pot, and I'll show you guys what that means. Oh, and also the pot is where you place your soul coins. It goes right in between all the cards. So I'll pick for my summon. I'll pick this guy's Sasquatch. It's like Sasquatch, but it's a squash. And you'd play him face down like this in my summon zone. And I need to place two of my soul coins into the pot. Alright. And then my opponent, who's also me, he will place 3 coins into the pot and place his card face down. But now the second player that goes, they have a chance, they get the first chance to place a card face down in a raise zone, and you don't need to put any coins in the pot when you place a card in the raise zone face down. And let's see, and if there were more than 2 players, the next player would do the same thing, where they would place 1 card in their summon, and then if they wanted to, they would be allowed to place 1 card in a raise zone. If they wanted to, you don't have to, it's optional. But anyway, when it gets back to the player who went first, then the player that went first can now place the card that they want face down in their raise zone. Because you see, like that way, it's like depending on it's like if your opponent bet like more coins than you did for their summon's probably stronger, so you might need to place a card in your raise zone that can deal with it. But anyway, so now the coins are in the pot. Everybody's placed their raise. You get to place 1 raise face down per turn, basically. And now you go to the flip stage, the reveal stage, where both players, or like all the players, they reveal their summon. And the first thing that happens is players, they apply the effects on the summon. If they want to. You don't have to, but Sasquatch's effect is add 1 gluttonous card from my deck to my hand. So it's like you pick your deck up and you go through it. Look, you find... Oh, fuck me. Well, that sucked. Anyway, you find a gluttonous card. Now, if a card... Now, here's a specific rule. Like, if with a card, if it says that you can search for a card from your deck, like a specific kind of card, like a gluttonous card, you do need to show that card to your opponents so that they know that you actually picked the only specific card you were able to. Because otherwise, it's like if this card says I can add 1 gluttonous card, but if I didn't have to show, then I could add any kind of sin of card. It's like I could add a wrathful or whatever, and it would be cheating. So it's like you have to show it, unless the card says otherwise. But yeah, you have to show what the card is. But anyway, so this player's not going to negate. This player's not going to activate Grizzled Detective's effect. But anyway, so now this is where the force comes in handy. So after the summons effects have gone off, it's like Grizzled Detective has a force of 800. That'll focus. Whereas Sasquatch only has a force of 600, which means that Grizzled Detective would beat over Sasquatch, and then my opponent would then be able to take the coins. However, this is where the raise comes in. So being able to use raises, you can raise at any time, and when you raise, what you do is you flip it face up, and this is when you pay the bet. You don't have to pay the bet when you place it face down, but when you flip it face up, that's when you throw the bet into the pot. So I play the Angry Flash Mob, so that's 4 coins into the pot, and then I get to activate its effect, which is I can muck any 1 card on the board if that will focus. I can select 1 card on the board and muck it, and I'm gonna pick the Grizzled Detective. So that way, I would force my opponent. They would have to choose a new summon or just give up the pot. But I don't want to let that happen. So what this player would do is then they would bet 3 coins for this card called the Wet Blanket. You'd bet 3 coins, throw that into the pot, and this card's effect is I can negate the activation of a raise, or I can raise this card and negate the activation of an effect, and then muck that card. And of course I would negate the Flash Angry Mob. So then this is mucked now. And unless a raise is mucked, the raise stays face up on the board after its effect has gone off until the end of the round. That's just a little technical thing, but yeah, it does stay up. It does stay face up on the board until it gets mucked, like at the end of the round, or if it's mucked or negated by a card effect. But anyway, so it's like there's no more cards that can be activated. So now we go into battle calculation. So 800 is bigger than 600, which means Grizzly Detective beats Sasquatch. So my opponent, who is also me, gets to take my soul, which is also my soul. So they get all the coins. See? And then at the end of the round, every card that you flipped face up goes to the muck. Now, if you didn't play a raise, now here's one way that could have gone differently. So instead of activating the Wet Blanket to negate the Flash Mob's effect, they could have just let the Grizzled Detective be mucked. And here, this creates a situation where you can decide, the other person, they can decide if they would like to play a replacement summon face up, or just give up the pot here. And unfortunately for me, I also have a card that's stronger than the Grizzly Detective in my hand. The one and only Luchador. Get it? It's a door. That's a wrestler. This card has 1400 force, which is way stronger than both Sasquatch and the Grizzly Detective. But one important thing here is this card has a bet of 5, whereas Grizzly Detective only had a bet of 3. So here's the thing. So if I were to say play. If I were to say pick a card that had a lower bet, I wouldn't have to bet any coins because my original summon was had a higher bet, so I don't need to bet anything for it. So if your replacement summon has a bet that's equal to or less than your original summon that got mucked by a card effect, you don't have to bet anything for your new summon. However, if the bet is higher, then you need to pay the difference, whatever amount the difference is. So my original summon here was 3, but to play this new summon it's 5, so I need to add 2 more coins. I need to add 2 more soul coins to the pot. Oh, and I forgot, the amount of soul coins that you have is called your stash. It's your stash of cash, basically. So yeah, so in this scenario, the 1400 beats over Sasquatch, and then I just take the soul myself from myself. Ugh. So I just take the soul from myself, and yeah. So now the round's over, but since they didn't use their raise, they still have it, and they have all the coins. So there's several different ways to play this. One thing I really want to talk about as well is See, another type of card I'd like to talk about, this is important, these cards, and there's one of these cards in each of the sins right now. I might add more later. But these cards have extra text on them. They have familiar spirit written on them, and these are special cards. So basically, these are cards that stick around, and you can keep using their effect. Just each round you can use their effect. What you do is you can play them as a summon or as a raise. Just by betting their placing their bet into the pot. And if you win the round, if you win the pot in the round that you play a familiar spirit, then you get to place your familiar spirit into your familiar zone, and there it stays until it is mucked by a card effect. Yeah. Once it gets there, your opponent can't get rid of it unless they use some kind of card effect. So yeah, it's be a good idea to use familiar spirits because they can give you a big boost. We have Succulent Succubus, who she doesn't let your opponent stop you from negating. She doesn't let your opponent negate any of your cards. You can't be stopped from playing anything with her. Whereas Mirror Mary, you have a chance to copy your opponent's effects with her, so you can use your opponent's cards against them. Yeah, and at the end of the round, the player, you just fucking... And anyway, players, you just keep playing until you run out of soul coins in your stash. And when you run out of soul coins, basically your opponent has taken your soul, and they have won completely. But here's again another special rule. If at any point you wouldn't have, if you haven't lost yet but you don't have any soul coins in your stash, that is called being all in. And if you are all in, at that point you can play cards in your raise zone without having to bet on them. You're all in, so you can just play all your raises for free. So it's if you're losing, it's just one last chance for you to claw yourself back. You can also, it's each round you need to be able to play a summon. And if you can't play a summon, you can either forfeit right there, or you can, play the summon. But say I wanted to play the Succulent Succubus as my summon, but I only have 2 coins in my stash. I could put the 2 coins in my stash, and then I'd be all in, so then I could play her as my summon. It's just if you lose, then you're done, because you wouldn't have anything else to do. And one thing I forgot to mention is that after you're finished, after the round is done, after somebody has taken the pot, then the next player in line, they are the ones who place their summon first. So I placed my summon first this round. So now in the next round, my opponent, who is also me, they would place their summon face down first. It's 5 coins, and then now it's my turn to then throw 6 coins in for my summon, and then I get to place 1 card. Oh shit! Always, I get to place 1 card in my raise zone, and then my opponent would then get to place the card in their raise zone, and it just goes like that. It just goes back and forth for the whole game until somebody takes the other person's soul. It's a very wholesome game. Yeah, so anyway, I hope that helps. Please check out Hokus Poker. It's going to be on the Game Crafter real soon. And I'll do some more videos probably talking about this card game, you know. But anyway, thanks for watching, and just have a wonderful day.